Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Infinite Gamer, and welcome to Aimless, the podcast where we take a topic and get a little aimless with it. Today's topic, the importance of soundtracks in gaming. And it's our second take because I forgot to record Andromeda's audio on our first try around this. So if you guys are wondering why there aren't the 3 episodes that I promised on IG326, that would be why. I messed up, and it took too long, and it was going to be too stressful. But it's here now. It's here today. So the importance of soundtrack in gaming. I don't even know how we started this off the first time, but I have my notes here. Apparently, we started it off with talking about the difference between cinematic and casual soundtracks in video games, and the major differences.
Like we were talking about the big hero moments, those moments that give you the goosebumps because you're going into a huge battle and make you feel so immersed in the game that the track that is accompanying it is like this empowerment. Like you're about to be this badass. You're going to war, and I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. Like whatever the soundtrack is that's playing behind it gives you that, oh yeah, I'm about to kick ass kind of feeling.
So we got the cinematic like soundtracks, right? And they are literally built to basically always accompany the story that the game is trying to tell. They're not just there just to be like a filler sound. They're normally composed specifically to like accompany the story. And then we have
to invoke emotion.
Yeah, to invoke emotion, to help crescendo the moment kind of situation.
You know what is I find really interesting is one of the most relaxing aspects of 7 Days to Die is truly the soundtrack. Like when you notice like when you're not about to like there's no zombies around and maybe you're farming or you're mining or you're doing whatever. The soundtrack that is playing behind it gives you, and Minecraft does this, and I don't even play Minecraft, but I know that because I listen to the Minecraft soundtrack all the time. Like because I have to listen to my children play it. But that relaxing accompaniment that really isn't instilling, even though you're not having a huge emotional reaction to it, it gives you a certain piece of like Raft is probably my favorite for this.
Raft is a
where
good
you're just on the water. It's so calming. It just sets a mood. It's not really about invoking an extra emotion and making you feel extra strong or extra or feel sad or whatever, but that accompaniment, that what they're doing. And in Raft, you can even change like how long between tracks and whatever. But that you're underwater, you're mining resources, and you've got this beautiful, like relaxing, thing. The only thing that sucks about it is you don't get a dun 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 when that shark is coming for you.
Different soundtrack. Different.
Yeah.
It's that soundtrack's a little held up by copyright, unfortunately. But yeah, no, that would be sick if it was in there.
But still, though, you don't even have that. You'll have that nice calmness of just doing it, and that shark spawns, and he'll attack you out of nowhere with nothing more than the sound of a chomp. You're not warned. You don't have that heightened sense of, oh, he's respawned and I got to kill him again. You don't get all that. You're stuck in this, which actually makes the game super immersive because you're just chilling and you're vibing and you're like, oh, yeah, this is the good stuff. And then all of a sudden you're bit and you're like, ah, and you get this fearful reaction because you have a full sense of security thanks to the accompaniment that is behind you.
You've been lulled by that. So those examples you just dropped there, I think, are great examples of casual soundtracks. Casual just being something that is used to do exactly like you've explained here, just kind of let you be in the world, but they don't have necessarily as much of a purpose as a cinematic soundtrack. They're still there to kind of bring you to the world of the game, but when the game is kind of like the world is your oyster, you need to have the soundtrack reflect that. So more broad tracks that don't have a lot of definition, but still make you feel like, oh, I'm here in this, this setting.
What would you call Kingdom Hearts soundtrack? Because I feel like Kingdom Hearts gameplay is always when the Heartless spawn, it's got this beat to it that you're kind of just vibing with that, but it is definitely depending on the zone you're in, it's been depicted in a way where it's not invoking that overall emotion. So I guess that would be considered casual. But at the same time,
it's funny that you bring that up because RPGs I feel like are in their whole different category because you have cinematic and casual that I've broken down most games into. But then when I started thinking about RPGs, they have both. They integrate both because RPGs are a grind fest. So when you're in the world grinding, you need that casual soundtrack to kind of still integrate you in the setting that just lets you, bop along to some nice beats while you're just grinding out the enemies. But then RPGs are also mainly story games, so they switch to a more cinematic soundtrack when you're in the major like story quests or something along
like we
those
talked about
lines.
this a little bit when you weren't recording my beautiful voice. Malo in RPG, in Super Mario RPG, when Malo goes home and finds out, because he now realizes that he was adopted by a frog and he's not a frog, and now he's got to go, and he goes to Nimbus Land where he's from to seek out his true parents, to find them, because he realizes that they exist and whatever, and his tears and his sadness as he's trying to do it, and the music that accompanies it, even though the story might be coming off as incredibly cheesy, you can't help but be like, Malo, like, you're just like, oh. But meanwhile, that one that when you're in a fight scene, when you've gotten into it and it's like, do, like, I can't even do it right. But you're like, it is like that loop of that track while you're fighting the bad guys is kind of invigorating on a different kind of level,
Yeah.
Like, it's not invoking that emotion, but, it's got you on this, like, this cycling,
it's something to get you through that fight without making it feel like a drag almost. It's like the energy drink to like RPGs is what I'd say RPG soundtracks are. Like, you could be grinding for 2 hours and not even know that 2 hours have gone by of you leveling up your characters, because sometimes the soundtrack just hits so well. That bops, just with the battle music just coming in. Like, I bet you wouldn't know like Kingdom Hearts Traverse Town music over Kingdom Hearts Heartless battle music, just because they're really those bopping tracks that stick with you because of, it's just a battle. It's just supposed to make you feel like you're in a battle mood.
Interactions. Yeah. Well, here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that, you're one of the reasons people play video games, and especially RPGs. Okay. But the reason we're playing video games is because we're escaping our real life in a lot of ways. Right. So while you're playing these video games, especially if you're doing like ones where you're playing online with other friends, right? Like, to this day, freaking the beginning, the original, what was it? The original Save the World. I think it's Save the World soundtrack, actually, but it was what was known as Fortnite. The acapella that they do on Warp Zone, right? Like, where they started off and they go through all 5 seasons, like from season 1 to 5, and they do that acapella.
Yep.
Like, all those tracks, like, literally bring back, okay? Because it was in my lobby. So when I hear those, I think about my time spending with you kids, like all the hours that we spent when you were streaming Fortnite and everything. And it literally is also recalling a memory, because you're creating memories, even though this is a virtual thing and it's a fake little world and whatever, especially when even if you're not playing with other people, but playing with people even makes it, you're actually building real life memories, even though it's not a real in life IRL experience.
Yeah.
So it almost becomes this accompaniment. So now when you hear that music later, what are you going to think of? Those moments that you had. And for the longest time after Fortnite started to go downhill, I was like, I could not hear that. It just made me so sad, because it made me miss all the time that we all spent together. I know we talked about it before, and when we did this the first time too, that because we were talking about those cinematic and bringing it in. So when you want to have those things that, when we're talking about the non-casual soundtracks, the ones that are leading you to set you up to know, like in Fatal Frame.
Oh yeah.
And you talked about something very important when we did this the first time that you should reiterate. And that is the importance of no sound.
Oh, yes. Yes. So, yeah, that is okay. I'm glad you reminded me, because, yes, exactly. So, something that a lot of developers don't realize is like, well, I guess I shouldn't say developers don't realize, but a lot of things that players don't realize that developers do is in horror games, they'll have that music. They'll have that ear music that puts you on the edge of your seat. But it's actually when the music cuts that it really you start to panic, just because you lose that sense of familiarity, right? Soundtracks are something that guide you through the world of a game, right? If you're in a fantasy world, it's going to have that fantasy track of you like going through a mystical forest. You're going to feel that, and it's almost like it's guiding you. But with horror games, you're in danger when the music is, doing scary, spooky, fast-paced stuff. You know that
like
you're in an eerie
neck lady.
When the broken neck lady falls in, and it's like all of a sudden you start getting like those heavy drums, and it almost is like imitating heart beating and things like that. You're in danger.
When you're going to fight a bad guy and you hear that,
yeah,
before
exactly.
you're supposed to take the picture. It like literally raises your adrenaline.
It
makes
raises
you
your
more immersed
adrenaline,
in the game.
but it also gives you a certain the first time it gets you because you're like, oh god, I'm in a fight, but you know, you get in the motions and now it's a sense of familiarity, and it gives you a
Comfort.
safety because you're like, I'm in a fight, I'm in danger, or I know what this is, and it gives you that safety. Yep. So when a game, like when a horror game takes away that music and takes away those audio cues that create that safety net, you become a lot more scared.
Confusion.
Creates a sense of confusion and fear because when you just get attacked, you're like, I thought this was safe. There's no battle music. How come I'm being attacked? And it incites that panic. So it's really interesting to see how some horror developers use the lack of a soundtrack and the soundtrack itself to scare you.
And these particular games we're talking about are very story-based. Fatal Frame is telling a story, right? Kingdom Hearts is an RPG, but it's also still they're storytellers, right? So just like in movies, the way that they implement those soundtracks, you know, tell me somebody that doesn't watch the beginning when they go to see the Brontosaurus in Jurassic Park. Do 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 do. I mean, we're all like, yes, we're like so excited. Like, you know this music now. Harry Potter. These kind of things. They're telling the story, but you become so familiar with that, and the way that it accompanies the story, and the difference between during gameplay, the immersion, the emotional affliction or lack thereof, whatever they're doing to use the music to strategically help you feel more immersed in the world and the story they have created. It is literally, that's what a lot of people don't. Why would you play video games? Well, imagine being able to interact with a book. Like, this is like the never-ending story. Like, you're inside this world. You're experiencing this for real. And that soundtrack even solidifies because your brain is receiving the sound. You're interacting. You're taking actions. You push a button and something is happening. So you've got this constant thing going between. But you talked about this too in the last one that we didn't fucking record. And this, because I can't remember what I thought was one of the best soundtracks, but you brought up, and this is by far the number one, I think, and that is God of War.
God of War is possibly one of the best soundtracks I have ever listened to, just because that's a cinematic soundtrack that uses very interesting meshes of instruments. Because
I just got goosebumps.
Another thing about soundtracks is you gotta
say something before you get off.
Yeah, go ahead.
God of War. I just gotta say, as soon as I thought about it, see, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm saying. I just got goosebumps by recalling this memory, and the reason I have this memory is because of the soundtrack that accompanies it. When Kratos goes back in and is like, "Oh fuck this shit, I'm pulling out my blades," right? And he opens the floor to get out the blades. It's the blades of chaos, right? Yep. So he goes back in because somebody's fucking with his kid. He's like, right? Isn't that how it goes down? Mm-hmm. And he goes in, and the sound, the music that is accompanying that moment where you just can feel this character. You're watching the cinematic. You're watching him go in. You know you are about to kick ass, right? But you see it, and you're like, oh yeah. But when he does it, the emotion that I guess is invoked within you is so deep. Like, it is like so emotionally moving, even though it is seemingly just a tiny cutscene, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're just like, you see him go back. It's not even that long.
So I think this is a perfect clip to actually use as a basis for let's talk about this clip actually. So in this clip, Kratos, Atreus is his son, and he's very sick, and Kratos needs a special, he's told by Freya, the person helping him make his son better, that he needs to go to hell, in the, I think, Nine Realms, which is a frozen hellscape, and he needs the magic of, forever burning fire, which is in his Blades of Chaos. Now, he's put them away because they're a symbol of revenge and vengeance and the nastiness that took on his whole life, and how he's left him behind. So the music that accompanies this clip starts off as deep acapella-esque, I would say Athens or Rome kind of feeling. If you ever listen to a Roman Colosseum kind of sounding music, it starts off with the deep hums of the warriors. And as he goes in, because you can feel almost the fury of him wanting to, save his son and help his son. So you have that fury, the Greek like warrior chant almost in the background. But then when he reveals the blades and he picks them back up, it slowly those warriors slowly fade and it turns into a more long like strings. You can hear like violin and freaking longer drawn
because
out
he had
strings.
sworn to put them down and never pick them up again.
So now
because of the damage he did with them. So it's now self-reflection and he is faced with an internal struggle because what does he do? He swore that these things were so bad and he did so much badness with them and he's healed and he's not going to pick them up again because it cost him everything to pick those up. But now everything that he has fought for is riding on it. So it's time to pick those blades up even though he has this hatred for them.
Yep, and then when he picks up the blades, we have the long strings for exactly that, the reflection. But then a ghost from his past basically, I guess, mocks him of like picking him back up and being all like, "You're a monster. You will always be a monster." And then he has that acceptance within him. He's like, "Yes, I will be that monster, but not for you.
Me too, Kratos.
Not for the Greek.
Too.
I won't be a monster for the Greek pantheon to control." And the moment he says that, the long strings immediately go away, and we're back to the warrior chant because it started out as the warrior chant for a monster like almost coming out of the cage, but then it became a warrior chant for him coming back onto the battlefield as his own warrior kind of way, and it perfectly crescendos into what is that story point? What is it? And it wouldn't have come across that way without the music, again, guiding you through that one scene. Because it shows the morph of the importance of one culture. Because if you didn't have that Greek, almost Rome Colosseum chant that warriors, like you feel like warriors would use, you wouldn't have that sense that Kratos is a warrior. So it's very important to have his Greek heritage in the soundtrack. But then it goes to self-reflection and that fades and it's more of string music, which I'm not too well knowledged on music cultures and whatnot. But, it's just, it draws it out. It draws out that self-reflection, the pain and the hurt of everything he's done before. And then when he's realized and he's come to terms with it, that's when it brings back again that chant. And because like it's a part of his heritage, it's a part of him. So I feel like the culture of music is very important alongside how it's being used. Bear McCreary is an absolute artist when it comes to going through those motions. He blends some crazy instruments that you wouldn't even know existed to properly make sure he's hitting that culture right on the mark.
And it's funny that we're talking about this because I love God of War soundtrack and I would recognize it. And I love the music that has also been created in association with it. Okay. Like what it's inspired. And so that's really super cool and all of that. But what about the music that is there that we don't even recognize is going on and how it's affecting us as a gamer? When we're being immersed in this world, there are also little subtle nuances that we may not even be picking up on because it doesn't have a beat. It doesn't have that necessarily immersion, but it's there to set that scene in a different way where you don't even realize, like where some of it might be, wanting to, you're going to be gearing up for a battle or whatever, or whatever. Or the cinematic scenes. Another one from God of War that really fucking just gets me is the beginning of God of War Ragnarok with the wolves.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I can't watch it. I saw it once. I have literally skipped over it anytime. I fucking will not have a part of it. It makes me feel too sad. But at the same time, like the action that is going on the screen. So sometimes like the music is telling you a story that the picture is not, but when the music matches the picture you are interacting with or the storyscape that you are going with, right? Because it's not always about that. Sometimes it's an accompaniment, but sometimes it's leading. But it's like when you couple the two together where they match perfectly and you get that, you're going to emotionally inflict somebody or who the player with like a different level of emotion. Okay. Where, and that, because sometimes it goes the other way. Sometimes it's like, honestly, the actions, okay, even though you know the story, but what about the people who didn't play, like, and know, like, the whole thing about the God of War 2018, right? Mm-hmm. When you don't really understand those Blades of Chaos, or you don't really understand what's going on with that, the music is still going to give you a certain level of hype. But now let's say that we go back and we watch that again, knowing what we've talked about. Now you've got that pairing
harder.
that gives you, it hits harder. It absolutely hits harder. But there are subtle things that when you're experiencing a game for the first time, you may not even notice are playing a role because they are so minute that you're not even picking up on that. You're too engrossed in the game to realize that accompaniment that is in the background and whatever is actually also still maintaining and pertaining to what your experience as the gamer is, what your immersion level is, how you feel engrossed in the world. And that's what really gets us sucked into games when we're going to play them. It's a combination of both. Video games with no soundtrack, half of them would not probably do as well as they do, especially when we're talking about cinematic story bases. Like the cinematic, because one thing about, like for example, Fatal Frame is not so cinematically. I mean, yeah, we get cutscenes, but come the fuck on. This is old shit, right?
No, it's not cinematic.
But it's not. That's not what you're getting from it. Like I'm not. The fear that I'm feeling is definitely coming more from the story in a lot of cases with Fatal Frame, right? Than necessarily. I mean, yes, you have that immersion where when you're going to fight a ghost or whatever, and those sounds that we talked about. But in the overall story, okay, well, the story is going on. You're not going to. I can't even think of what it sounds like. I can't even remember. You're so engrossed in the story that accompaniment isn't on the same level. You know what I mean? It's a background noise. It's a filler to keep it from being quiet, kind of like we do on our streams. You know?
That's funny that you say that because actually, I'd say that Fatal Frame, when it comes to it, I'd argue that the story in Fatal Frame is like secondary. I'm gonna be honest with you. Other than base plotline, I don't think I could tell you what happens in the first 3 Fatal Frame games because I just don't think the story is actually that important to its purpose.
The gameplay. I think number 2 is. I think Crimson Butterfly is huge.
I think if you sit back
Crimson Butterfly
and you listen to the story, it's important. But I mean, if you think about it, Fatal Frame's a game more based in its setting. The setting I feel like is meant to inspire those feelings with you, and I feel like the soundtrack plays to your setting more than the story. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was not sitting there reading my 17th memo of the game going, "Oh my god, I'm scared." I was saying, "Holy shit, there's dolls in this room. I'm gonna fucking die."
Yes. Actually, I can see that. I can totally see that. So yeah, nope. That and I couldn't tell you, other than the very beginning, it's kind of like, oh, here's a good one. Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2. That beginning, I still could get goosebumps. Like I'm already scared, but like it becomes like a certain level. And same thing with Crimson Butterfly, the beginning of Fatal Frame 2, that spookiness that starts the game out, like it does. It is setting a mood, but it is way more for the scene and the setting that you're in. I don't really know that much about Resident Evil's like soundtrack. I guess I've never paid that much attention, but I definitely know what was playing.
Is something we'll talk about definitely here in a second, but you continue.
But like with the crows in the very original, when they break through the windows and the music that starts, well, it is definitely playing to the environment more than maybe my necessary emotional affliction to the story. You know what I mean? Like it is all setting based because now I'm like, holy shit, I'm in trouble. I'm already scared of what's going on in my environment because it's caught me off guard. And now you're playing this I'm going to die music. So yeah, I think it's really important that besides cinematic and whatever, you've got the music that is going to play to the scene and the setting, that is going to not necessarily make the story or even necessarily really the gameplay stand out as much as the environment in that moment, and what it is making you feel.
Yeah. So let's because we're on horror games and their environments and whatnot, because while cinematic games have like, something that played to the story and casual games have music that helps you feel immersed in the world, horror games, like we've talked about just now, need to make sure that you're integrated in the setting, which is a little different than being integrated in the world. Like with Raft, the seagulls playing with some tropical background music makes you feel like you're on the ocean. It makes you feel like you're drawn into this world because in Raft, you are the main character, right? there is not a main character that you're playing as. It's more like you are the main character. So the fact of putting that immersion to making sure that you're in that world is top priority for the soundtrack there. But with Resident Evil 2, the original, I feel like does the best out of all the Resident Evil games when it comes to soundtracks. And when you step into the RPD, you'll notice, if you listen very carefully, faint echoes of piano notes. Because when you enter the RPG, you're in this huge, massive hall. It's open, it's echoey, your footsteps are making reverb. So to have a soft piano hit the notes and echo throughout those halls can hit you with that feeling of, this is empty. There's nothing here. I'm alone. And it exactly plays right off the environment that it's displaying for you. Resident Evil games especially are very good at making you feel alone. And I feel like Resident Evil as a franchise really does its disservice when it gives you a companion to play with. Like, even Resident Evil 2, when you team up with Ada or Sherry, the game deliberately takes them away from you very quickly out of that, oh, did you get comfortable that you had someone with you? Well, no, we're taking away. Where Resident Evil 5 and 6, you have a companion the entire game, and it completely ruins that.
4, but I don't think she fucking makes you feel. I think you're ready for her to fucking get taken away.
That's completely different. Ashley is not like you're horrified with Ashley because you're like, please don't die for the second time. I'm so sick and tired of playing this section. But no, Resident Evil 2 really has that good job at making you feel alone in this big empty space where there's danger lurking around, but the music doesn't allude to the danger. It just alludes to you're alone until you hit the save room.
I got a question. In talking about horror games, and we're talking about this, I know that this is a huge thing. The soundtrack and the sounds used in Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, well, Five Nights at Freddy's doesn't have a soundtrack. Five Nights at Freddy's has casual laughing of freaking bears and static noise. Five Nights at Freddy's deliberately uses the lack of soundtrack to try to actually pull its immersion in with you, because in that game, that's another one of those games where you are the main character feeling it, and the whole point of, like, there's not really a soundtrack.
So the sound, there's not really music. Yeah, the sound that's associated with it, though, is got that off-settling. It's the sounds used in it aren't about cinematic or necessarily, they're off-putting.
Yep,
they're to keep you on edge all the time.
Yep, the footsteps
you know what other game
that you hear in the... well, which one?
Outlast.
Oh, God, it's been so long since I played Outlast. Yeah, I'd have to revisit. One day I want to revisit and probably beat that game. But
all I know is every time I've watched somebody play it, it is that off-settling, because especially the one where you're in like or maybe it is the first one when you're in the insane asylum and you're hearing like the ghostly haunting, like whatever, and you don't know what any of it is, and you never know what I really hate that game. I can't even watch. I've never tried playing it. I won't try playing it because that one freaks me out. Resident Evil, the one with Ethan, freaks me out for very similar reasons too. Because like when he's in the house and and trying to, go through it, you're dealing with environmental sounds at that point versus soundtracks, but they're still part of a game soundtrack.
Oh,
like
yes.
If you go download an OST, you're going to get a piece of that. You know what I mean? But using not just silence, but not music. Because when we think of soundtracks, everybody thinks of the music.
Yeah.
But sound effects are just as equally without a tune, but are just as equally immersive in what you're doing. In those games, that's why, I used to get heart palpitations in Resident Evil 4 when I'd enter. I don't even remember how far I got, but it's when you get Ashley. Because that threat of her being stolen, I had to quit playing. I've never beaten that game because in 2003, it would have been 2005, when I first played it on GameCube. Okay, I was home alone. You were like 2. It was too scary for you, so I had to wait for you to go to bed. I'm sitting there in the dark on my GameCube trying to play this. I literally was having a panic attack from the sounds that were being offered in the game because I was that scared. And it wasn't even about the music being creepy and spooky. And, it's like we talked about with Jaws, where, you just quietness. There's not really, it's a track, but it's not really music. But at the same time, you're like, oh, fuck. fuck. You know, like it's scary. It makes it so it's not just even soundtracks don't just include actual music composition, but we're talking about the actual use of different effects in a game. We talk about this actually in 7 Days to Die all the time. The different satisfying sounds when we pick up different things. Like if you pick up, you know, that sound, if you pick up you get that ting from picking up a glass jar. Or I love the sound of eggs.
Yeah, like, eggs have that like plastic sound is like, I love sound of eggs. And eggs are, dude, I could move a pocket full of eggs for so long, dude. I love eggs. Eggs are great. Speaking of soundtracks used in this way, I kind of wanted to move on to talking about Toby Fox's soundtracks. So Toby Fox is the creator of Undertale and Deltarune, and so his games are classified as an RPG. But
is this Sans, right? Yep. We're talking about Sans. Yep. Okay.
Are we talking about Sans? Yes, we're talking about Sans. But Toby Fox actually has this unique approach that I don't really like notice a lot in bigger games or just games in general. He likes to have themes for characters. So his games are all about connecting with the in-game characters. You're supposed to feel empathy and get attached to them. So his soundtracks directly reflect those characters. That's why Megalovania to this day is so reminiscent to people, because it's not only just a really awesome sounding boss soundtrack, but it displays something that only you throughout your journey would encounter. Like, to just listen to Megalovania in Undertale the game, you have to go through and optionally kill every person in the game until you get up to that Sans boss fight, where then that soundtrack starts playing. So for some gamers, that soundtrack is tied to killing these characters that you've fallen in love with on previous playthroughs, because you can do a playthrough where you don't kill everyone and whatnot. So this soundtrack could hit players in a way where you're like, oh my god, not only am I getting my ass kicked by this funny skeleton man, but also I'm a monster. I murdered all my friends. It's like, it hit you with some damn video game soundtrack trauma.
Yeah, I don't want to get copyrighted, but yeah, it's jamming. I don't even play the game, and that's jamming shit.
It's jamming shit, though. You listen to it, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, it's good shit, even if you haven't played the game. Word.
Dude, there's so many Toby Fox soundtracks that I could just pull.
Come out here and be like, what's happening?
Like, another one is Hopes and Dreams at the end of Undertale, which I believe, if I'm correct, Hopes and Dreams is the pacifist ending. So you went through and you made friends with everybody, you loved all these creatures, you spared their lives, and now you're in the final boss fight, the final person that you have to try to save. And it's just this amazing, epic buildup of like this harmonious almost, but still like that rock that freaking Toby Fox is known for. And it just, the way he uses the soundtracks to accompany the characters just shows that, one, Toby Fox is amazing at writing characters. Because if you can fall in love with a character so much that you also fall in love with their music, that's just epic in general. But then he makes so bussin' music that you just love the music too. There's some characters that you might have fallen in love with, not because of the writing, but because of the music that they're associated with.
That's interesting. That is interesting. I really like the psychology behind all of that. Like, it's amazing how our brain receives any input and how it takes things, you know?
Drama should definitely watch that Deltarune video, though. Deltarune. So I wasn't there for the Undertale, like, explosion. So I didn't play Undertale. I've not played Undertale. And I don't know if I will, because I've already been spoiled to it all. So Undertale,
and I've been told that unless you want to die on the internet, don't play Undertale. My chat
people are very
Undertale,
passionate about it.
They're very passionate about the game. There is a lot of, I wouldn't want to, like, it's literally been like, I don't think I want that. I don't want anything. If I'm gaming, I don't need to be that serious. And if people are feeling that serious about it, well, I have enough things to be passionate in life about.
Yeah.
But
Deltarune
just an FYI.
is
So
a
just FYI, just so you know right now, because I know this is coming up and I don't know how much more on video game soundtracks you really wanted to talk about. But just for the record, I prepared myself for your Beach Life podcast. Are we
okay.
doing that today too?
Probably not because I have found out that I have to do something. So we probably won't do that today, but we
Okay.
might knock that out either
Well, then I'll.
Saturday or Sunday. I gotta look at stream schedules.
Okay, just checking because I'm gonna just save my notes then.
Okay.
So,
So Deltarune is where I was at, talking about how Deltarune also uses Toby Fox's signature soundtrack, but somehow he's made it better. The battle music in Deltarune, oh, like that's so good because now in Deltarune, he still has like characters tied to their soundtracks, but you no longer have to spare those creatures and whatnot. So it's more of a traditional RPG rather than it being like, oh, like imagine playing Mario RPG and the Goomba comes up to you, tells you about your life dreams and how he wants to like succeed in life, and then you murder him because you need XP. That seems a little fucked up. But Deltarune takes it back to
this
that.
game might be. I'm starting to understand that these games they're not so great.
Yeah,
They seem a little.
They seem a little like
fucking.
Well, that's what makes people so passionate about the game is because Toby Fox is really good at giving you the question. You, the player, well, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna give you the choice. You could spare this creature. Power. You could kill this creature. You could do whatever you want. What would you do? And how will it impact you? How will it make you feel? And that is why Undertale became such a massive hit. Is just that question there, because he made lovable characters, and then he's like, "What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Huh? You gonna kill that? You gonna kill that little guy over there? You gonna kill that cute little froggy in the corner because you want your XP number to go up?" And it messes with people's minds. But Deltarune sounds like it. Deltarune's a little bit more traditional. It doesn't necessarily matter if you kill the creatures in that one because they don't actually die; they just run away, and you can actually like play the game a little bit more normally. But he still has that thematic. Characters have their themes, and you know, just something that still you can identify certain characters that you love with. Although Deltarune's story, I feel like, impacts me more than Undertale's, because Undertale's more is like a reflection onto you, the gamer, rather than Deltarune is more a reflection on the game to the player kind of situation, I feel like.
I feel like you also brought up Breath of the Wild when we were talking last time.
Breath of the Wild, I think I talked about it with that fantasy storyline when we were talking about like how like you have open world games where you can kind of like roam around and you need to have the soundtrack kind of staple onto that setting. Especially with open world games. Open world games are a little harder, I feel like, for a soundtrack to land because you have multiple different settings you go to. Therefore, you have your music match those settings. And if it's open world, you can go to them at any time. There's not a linear path. Like in an RPG, there are very few RPGs where you can go to World 3, let's say, before World 2. So it's a lot easier to have the story and the soundtrack kind of follow that linear path. But like, what happens if you go from winter biome to fire biome? And how do you have that soundtrack perfectly meshed together, even though those are two completely contradictory locations and probably have contradictory soundtracks? How do you have those mixed together? Some open worlds just have the same like 5 tracks that loop no matter your setting, and some soundtracks have environmental tracks that are meant to blend, almost like 7 Days to Die, a biome freaking blending except for music kind of thing. So I find that pretty interesting. And then the last kind of soundtrack I wanted to talk about, because we've talked about how the soundtrack impacts the story, how that impacts you, the player. But something you brought up, Andromeda, about Fortnite, also I have written down in here is Mario Kart. Mario Kart soundtracks are bopping, they're fun, but you know what they also bring up? Mario Kart is a game all about playing it with your friends, right? Get 4 friends together, race on some iconic tracks. And I feel like it's awesome because that soundtrack is literally meant to just be like fun and bopping and isn't really meant to invoke a feeling. But when you have some crazy shit happen on those tracks with your friends, and then you hear Mewview Highway play in your ears, you're gonna have some PTS fucking D.
That's fucking great.
And I just wanted to talk about that because, like, just it's silly.
No, you know what really gives you you know what really gives you fucking PTSD in fucking Mario Kart is that weep.
Oh god, no, not that, the blue shell. Not the blue shell. Everybody knows that.
There's nothing you're gonna do. There is nothing you're gonna do. You know what? You have 2 choices now. Either stop being in first or get fucked, buddy. I can't tell you how many times I would kill you kids by slamming on the brakes and you're right behind me, so it would blow all of us up so I could keep my fucking space in line. Like, oh my god.
It is crazy.
I hear that blue shell and it is brakes on.
Oh yeah, just get in second as however fast you possibly can, and hopefully you're not in that perfect sweet spot of you have enough lead where, like, when you hit the brakes, the second place is gonna pass you with no problem. It's like, oh god, it's so bad and whatnot. But no, I just find it interesting because a lot of people wouldn't talk, like, you don't hear gaming reviewers raving about Mario Kart World's amazing soundtrack, but I still think it's important. I think it's important to have some nice bopping tracks to get you past the race, but also when you're playing it with friends, those tracks also have that certain cemented, like, feeling to you. Like, you know, when someone clicks on Rainbow Road and you start hearing that music, you know that you have to put on your sweatiest gamer goggles and just race it.
When you have in your tracks that you do confusion, like if something's like what, you know, you do the Rossetti soundtrack from Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
That, you know, and when you go all the way back to like GameCube days, when you got that Rossetti, I'm almost positive it's GameCube, or is it City Folk? I don't know which one it is that it comes out of.
It's GameCube that I use a lot, if that's what you're referring to, but same difference.
It immediately, usually for those of us who played that shit, okay, we are dealing with like your console got unplugged. You know, very rarely in Animal Crossing are you really gonna want to reset that shit in order to gain an upper hand in something. Okay, it very rarely happens that way. But even if that's what you're trying to do, and I think that's what he says in it with that soundtrack, when you hear that soundtrack or whatever, he's like, "What are you trying to do? You just trying to erase your choices? You try to, you know, undo something?
You're being a criminal."
And then if you do it enough times, it actually escalates to the point where he's like, that's it, I'm deleting your game. You know?
Yes.
So if you had that experience, it's so funny when I hear it. When I hear it, it just piques my interest when you're using it because I know what you're actually trying to do. You're actually trying to build that, you know, wait a minute. You're calling sussy bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
Like, or something like
calling
questionable.
sussy bullshit or guilty actions, kind of. You know, you hear Rossetti's soundtrack and he's like giving you an earful about not saving, and all you can think of is my power surged. It's not my fault. But it's still, you still feel guilty, like you have any control over your power surging. But you still feel bad because your progress is gone, and now you're getting your ear chewed off by a freaking angry mole and whatnot, and it just stings. It's one of those soundtracks that sticks with you just because it just stings and whatnot. And yeah, and you can say the same about Animal Crossing Bees. And you start playing bee music, and you're like, "Oh God, I need to run."
Yep. Yeah, that's true.
Pedal to the metal. Where's my nearest house? I need to get inside.
Yep. I mean, really, what's gonna happen if you don't? You just take a medicine, but it's about nope, don't want to get stung, you know. It's because of the soundtrack. I mean, really, what is the overall? You don't die in that game, okay? You don't lose anything in that game. You end up with a black eye. There is no real action from that, but it still ensues panic when it happens, and you don't even have a repercussion. There's no fucking, you know, like really. I mean, just let yourself get stung, man. You know, or worse, you got to catch one of those. And now you're going to try. Now you're in a new kind of battle. But either way, yeah, you have an immediate reaction to that sound. And it always does it. It goes, bonk, you know, because your character gets surprised and does anime shock, you know? And then you're like, you can't control anything for a minute. and then it becomes the button mashing and the running and or the I'm going to
Nope.
get ahead of them enough that I can turn around and swing my net, kind of thing. So, um,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
definitely.
Well, I think with that, we've perfectly illustrated the importance of video game soundtracks, whether it be from a cinematic storytelling standpoint or hanging out with your friends and having some PTS tracks hit the back of your noggin. Video game soundtracks just are something that everyone should put a little bit more thought to maybe the next time you play a video game. And I leave that open to people in the comments below. Tell me about your favorite video game soundtracks and how they have emotionally impacted you, whether it be, again, a story kind of game or a game that you just play with your friends a lot.
Or
And
something that has hit you just because it's so chill that you just could just relax and like that accompaniment. Like I could probably listen to raft music in the background in my real life all the time and feel so much more of a sense of calm. I mean, it doesn't even have to be, I guess that's not as an extreme tie to it, but like maybe you just like that sound. Yeah, let us know. Like, because we love music. So I'm just on the real. That's what it really is a music appreciation. So what music do you appreciate when you play video games?
And while you're down there typing away your answers below, why not subscribe? You'd get more aimless content just like this. We have a lot of episodes up and coming. Obviously, Andromeda talked about the beach episode in this episode right here, but I have a lot of more secret projects coming along this way. And if you guys want to see me have react to like live video game soundtracks, check out IG326, where we play a bunch of video games and, have all our own crazy adventures over there. Also, if you're more in a Animal Crossing real life kind of mood, head over to IRL326 to check out all our IRL adventures featuring vlogs and food challenges and just all of our real life adventures there. But I think that's going to end this episode of Aimless. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will catch you guys in the episode of Aimless. See you guys.
Bye, guys.